It's been such a long time since I've posted a video. It's been, I think 2 weeks was the last time I had a video. And it's been really, really busy at work. We've had our reports and there's loads of assessment and comments that go with that sort of thing. And the school, my work at the school is the one that takes precedence over everything because it keeps the lights on. And it's my job. This is my hobby. So I want to start by saying thank you very much to Vaughan Shonicus. And Vaughan Shonicus is an ex-parent of a kid I taught quite a few years ago, his son Max. And he has a daughter too, but I never taught her. And Vaughan is so generous with the things he's given me. He's given me all sorts of stuff. A brand new porta power for straightening out car shells. I haven't used that yet. He's given me little sandblasting things. He's given all sorts of stuff. These sorts of tools, I use these, like bent needle nose that are very, very long. My Nipex needle nose pliers and stumpy pliers. I use these every day. I always use those. These locking scissors, he's given me quite a few things like that. An analog multimeter, a small sandblaster. His latest thing though, he put this pack together. A gas soldering iron, which I'll use. He's also given me some snips and a set of leads, multimeter leads, test leads with little clips and all sorts of things. I'll use all this stuff. And also, a small gas torch. And this thing, where is it? And I'll show you this. This thing here. And I'll show you this. This is one of these USB microscopes, and you think to yourself, yeah, look, I've seen these before. And when there's a stand for it, and when you shoot it, it's just like shooting something with a digital camera. But when you put it really close, and they never advertise them with that, it's really quite bizarre what you see. Now this one, I couldn't download the software for it, but I could download one from an alternative product, which is pretty much the same, and I'll show you that in a moment. So thank you, Vaughan, very, very much for all of the support you've given me. So in this one, we've got to the point where the stand is finished-ish. The engine is almost ready to start. And I'm at a crossroads. So I think there'll be one more video after this which will tie up that old engine, the $50 one, and we'll wire up the stand, and then we're finished with that sort of thing. And by then, I'm into the XC. I've been looking at that guard today. And also the 1600 B series engines being bought at the moment. What else do I have to say? I think that's about it. I went to the wreckers. You'll see in a minute. There's some wrecker footage. And there was a TX5 Turbo Telstar there. And they're based on it's an AT. So they're based, I think, on the GD626. A beautiful car, a lovely car, and I just thought, and it's turbo and all this sort of stuff, and it's in the wreckers, but the turbocharging equipment for one of those, I kind of want it. So if you're watching this, I think you should go down and buy it before I do. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Well, don't I sound absolutely exhausted? And that's because I am. So I am sorry about that. This little pair of slippers, the key next to it gives you some idea of how big it is, and that's with this little microscope. It actually goes right into all the fibres and all this sort of stuff. It's bizarre how powerful it is, given that it really does look a bit like a toy. So I also shot this postage stamp, and again, it was quite surprising what I saw. Of course, we're down to a sort of pixelated view of it. It's not that impressive, really. It's just a view of it that I wouldn't have imagined. The next thing's freaking disgusting, though. Wait till you see this. It's foul. That, ladies and gents, is my chin. And you can see the stubble. And there's left holes. I mean, that is just as foul as it gets. But I just thought it was interesting. Right, so this is just a box made from ply. What is it, about 8mm ply? And I've just cut strips off and made little risers in each corner so that I can hold those two members together, and then I've wrapped it in bendy ply. We've got beech and blackwood, two of my favourite timbers, and it's pretty half-assed, but it's all scraps. That's all it is, just stuff out of the scraps bin. We'll have master switch, we've got an ignition switch, and we'll have fuel and coil over here. with a Wolseley 2480 combined instrument there. No tacho and no electric cooling fan, but it doesn't matter. I've had to cut the bottom out there to allow for the capillary tube, on the 2480. So I'm just trying to kind of book match this, which is only moderately successful. What if I move that up? I'm just worried about this scrap here, where it broke. Oh, crap. What if I put it there? That doesn't look too bad. Yes, we'll do it like that. And I've got to clamp this. I'm going to turn this camera off and clamp it up. Right, that's something how it's going to go. I haven't finished cutting that out, but I don't care. I should take that switch out, but I've left it there to locate that side. Let's get some scraps and clamp it up and should be right. Oh, we'll see how that goes. I've clamped the arse out of it, but the chances of it turning out reasonably crap are fairly high. Switches, and I've had to break my $0 budget and spend $15 on switches and warning lights. Do I need to clamp that side there too? I probably should. It all feels fairly flat though. I think I might just lean. I might put another couple of clamps on it. That'll be alright though, I reckon. Is that coming up from under there? Yes, it is. Well, I'll just let him dry and see what happens. Other way you can do it is using veneers. That's beautiful. Silky oak. But we haven't got any, we'll use this. I reckon that's not for, look at this. I should have inlaid it, shouldn't I? It's just gorgeous. And it's these sorts of veneers that people used on their old cars. There's a bit of walnut. Clamp it up. I wonder if I can do an inlay. If I'm not happy with it, I'll do a little inlay strip or something. Say out of that. That will look beautiful. But yeah, there's only sort of little bits and pieces. There's some, I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what that is. That looks like walnut. Some beautiful stuff though. But they're all sort of small offcuts, and this is supposed to be made from scraps, and that stuff isn't scrap. What a gorgeous day. Kind of melancholy though, because I have to go and pay my respects at the local cemetery. An automotive cemetery, and I'm going to have Buckley's finding the radiator one because I want a narrow one. Look at this, TX5 Turbo, Telstar. What a waste. These things were slingshots. They went really well. In fact, that might be the, oh no, it's a Ford. Gosh, manual, really? These things hammered. There's got the manifold there. Oh, I can't reach. Hang on a minute. Yeah, TX5. Rachel, if you see this, what a waste. What's the mirror like? She needed a mirror. Maybe I can buy a mirror for her. I don't think that's all that's sunburnt. I don't think that's much good to her. Hang about. A turbo, really? These things, I had so much fun in these when I was a bit younger and I used to work in a Ford dealer. Yeah, that's munted. What a bloody waste. Oh no. There's an older lady cruising around Ringwood. Look at the intercooler. Mazda all-wheel steer turbo car as well. Mazda 626. Brilliant car. I'd like one. This would be perfect. It's a little Swift or oh no, Barina, 91 Barina. It's got a lovely narrow radiator, which is perfect for us, except some idiot's thrown the head on the top and cracked it all. That would have been perfect. Well, the only thing I can find, which looks like it's going to do, is a JB Chimera radiator. It's the right width. It looks absolutely perfect. I'm just hoping it's got coolant in it. There's no cap on these. These are separate sort of header tank. Has it still got coolant in it? I didn't check. I don't want to mount header tanks, but no, that was buggered in there. I don't know. Hopefully it's holding some sort of cool, but that's perfect size. I can always rig something up with a cap on it, or it's got some fluid. It's coming out of that hole there, halfway down. It looks like a normal radiator that's mounted sideways. That's a bit odd. That's oriented the same way. Yeah, looks like it. I might pull it up. Might keep looking at it. So this is knackered, but it doesn't seem to be leaking. It's dropping coolant everywhere. It was pretty buggered. I wouldn't have expected any better from one of these. I should have come to the Honda aisle first. This is a Civic and it looks absolutely great. People use these on Starlets when they fit turbos. They put a shorter radiator from a Honda over here and it just leaves more room for the turbocharger. I don't think I'm going to take this. I'll just get it out first and have a look. I think this is really good. The coolant coming out of it is so green. I'll take the fan. I don't really want a fan. For the thing that I wanted to keep it compact, but it might not be a bad idea having it. It looks to be in really good condition. I wanted 400 by 400, which I knew was a tall order. We've got 380, which is cool, by 400, so it's absolutely perfect. Excellent. Well, sometimes I haven't got enough scraps to make something, so I'm here and I'm going to take this rear muffler from this Civic as well. It looks rather nice. It's not as round as a Starlet one. I've got a couple of spare Starlet ones, but I wanted something more oval, so that'll do. I'm just going to zip it out. It looks okay, so we'll just take it out and go and pay for our goods and leave. Right, so what I initially planned to do is start this in a very sort of naked state without the pump and all this sort of business on. The issue is the 1600 block is shown to be good and the pistons came in for it. 30 over flat top, so we're going to bump our compression right up. And all the fasteners I sent off for electroplating. So there was, I think, well, you just saw the thing there was 11 strings of it. Whether you give them 5 strings or 11 strings, $60, right? That's not really a big deal. Now, these studs are knackered, but they're kind of tricky. See, it's bent. They're 5/16 fine at the top and they're 5/16 coarse underneath. Now, you need to bear something in mind here. Some of these holes aren't blind. That one is. That one's not. So coolant will leak up past the thread unless you use some sort of GM sealer or thread sealer. I use GM sealer because I think it's the best. But you can see how bendy that is. Now what I've done is I've just sort of mucked around with them. I've also used non-genuine washers underneath the head nuts. Now this guy is going to sit like that in the car. That feels a little bit bent, so I'm just going to push him back a bit. Just like that, which is probably a stupid thing to do, but I don't really care. Right, so there's that. That's how it sits. Now what I need to do to fit this Honda radiator we've got is I've got to fit it like that. And it seems going quite well, which is a good thing. That washer I put on's interfered, so interfering on the inside, which you can see there. So I'll just use a scriber and then use a Dremel and basically cut that washer back. This thermostat housing is pretty knackered. I don't think it's particularly fit or attractive to use, but on this engine it's going to be alright. We've also got all this rusty scaling nonsense down inside the block. Well, that's just inside the flange with the water pump. I'm going to pop the Welsh plugs out and give it a good blow. The other thing you can do is pop a magnet down there and all sorts of stuff will come out with it. Okay, so because I'm a bit of an idiot and I didn't really forward think this, all the fasteners I've got that I could spare, I threw in on one of those strings to the plater. This is the 1600s pump. It looks fitter than the one that was there. Not sure. Less corrosion on it and it's cleaner. There's the 1500s, the one that came off this engine. Here's the 1600s one. That looks more to be a rebuildable one with a nut on the front and also this bearing cover thing for lubrication, I would assume. This one's a sealed one, so you know it doesn't even matter. All I'm using this for is spacing. So MG or the original MG manifold studs fit in. These engines seem to use 1/4, 5/16 and 3/8 fine fasteners everywhere, and you'll find they're weird because you've got a 5/16 coarse or fine there, but the other end of the stud is coarse thread. So that's why I ran a coarse thread tap into the block. These are fine and fine, so go figure. Same with those, because that's all they are. Now, I can't even see what I'm doing. I'm fumbling. It's useless when you fumble. Now, if I pop that on, all I'm interested in doing really is just getting the spacing right. So the plating I've taken off, quite often it is much more economical to buy in bulk. I haven't plated a lot of the nuts. The only ones I've plated that came off are the ones that are deeper for some unknown reason. These from a while ago. Rip the bag, I can't be bothered opening it. These are the original BMC fasteners, which in contrast to, they're bloody quarter, hang on, which in contrast to aftermarket. So your aftermarket's a grade 5, there's 3 strokes on them, right? These are the ones that came off, they're proper BMC ones. And you can see they look brand new. That one's a little bit hazy, not as clear as the rest of them in its plating, but that would be because that had surface rust all over it. These are new, right? So it doesn't really matter. I just bought a whole lot of 1/4 inch fine. These things are made up of that. That's just easier. And they're cheap too. They're not expensive at all. So let's bang this on. I haven't got it in enough really to catch that thread. I didn't do that very well. I didn't think it through too well. Let's see if we can just start a thread and wind it on, because I just need it for spacing. Is that going to break off or is that going to tighten up? Oh, it tightened up. Rather lovely. Right. And that's sitting over there. Is that all the way home? Yeah, as good as. Right, so I'll pop a fan on and that'll give us some distance we need from the radiator. Again, this is freshly hydroblasted, so there's a water-based coating on it to stop corrosion. And we just wiped it off with Prepsol, which is pretty easy. The fans are 2-piece, so we've got summer fan. No, we've got winter fan and summer fan. I'm just going to pop them on. I'm using quite long 1/4 inch, so I'm just going to whack them on there and start it. Have I got the right size socket? I wonder. Let me have a look. Perfect. And this will do in terms of just setting it up the way I want to, because we've got to weld these legs on here. Come on, start up. There we go. Now it might come across that I go too far with hydroblasting and that sort of thing, and it's a reason. If most of these sorts of things are painted in enamel, and so you can pretty safely get another rattle can and paint over it. I just don't like doing that. I want to paint it my way with my paint and get the finish I want, which means you're committed to taking all of the paint off, because you can't put acrylic paints over the top of enamels. Now a great example of that is the XW. I took every square millimetre of paint off that car because it was crazed, and it was done in enamel or jam, and I painted the car in acrylic, and 5 years, 6 years later after I've painted it, it's still lovely. The Sigma I painted last year with acrylic, and I had trouble putting the paint down because of the rubbish that was underneath, and you saw how bad it is now. So I like to take everything off. Now this is awfully close. Awfully close. I didn't notice that. I can use the electric that came with it, but there's something about a manual old fan that I reckon looks absolutely great. It's just better. Now, that will clear, but traditionally this is designed to come out like that, where it will clear the fan considerably. We're right on top of the thing there, so we do have to be careful of that. Right, well I've got this level. They're different bits of tubes. I haven't cut any off the new stuff I've bought. We're going 85mm from the top there, and this will be recessed in, running across there. And what that'll do is it'll give us enough room to poke the pilot holes for the radiator mount, and that will sit like that. Sort of like that. So you can see it's a tiny bit out of line from there, but I want that because it gives us more fan clearance. If I can hold that for a moment. It gives us more fan clearance underneath it. Yeah. The other problem with this is, of course, the outlet is here, down the bottom, canted up on an angle, and of course, the inlet is here on this side. So we've got to figure that out. And I reckon the best way of doing that is just making something up which is going to be made from bits of exhaust pipe that are joined and travel underneath. The problem though is the timing mark is underneath as well. We can't go through here because that's going to mean if we go through there it's going to be just, it's not going to work. So I've got to figure that out. Large piece of bendy coolant tube. Second-hand clamps, bit of exhaust pipe. These are terrible. They're from Aldi, I believe. A box of hose clamps, which I've never used on a car. I've used them for this sort of thing. Second-hand Trident clamps, just so much better than using a new one like that. They're just rubbish. That's the biggest case of interference fitting, that hose. And of course we're going to have to goop this up with elastic or something just to hold it all in there. But if I can tighten that up on there and just get it to stay for a moment, like that, that seems fairly good. At least then we can sort of figure how we're going to route this, because I think that's going to be fine, absolutely fine. It just means it's coming up here and we've got an angle going up there, but at least we're on the right side, and we might be able to use some other pipe like that. But we're moving in the right direction. It might even be better to use a shorter piece of this and try and join it up with one of the curves that was in the old hose. Say, for example, these ones here. It's just you've got no room to modify the length of it. Right, I'm busy trying to work out how to put the radiator in. It's a Honda radiator, I think I mentioned that. We've got to cut that hose a bit shorter because you can see it's out. I want it a little bit closer, but I'm worried about the height of it against the fan. So we've got that, which is kind of close, but it can go a bit closer. There's not the right piece of hose. And there's also, I've run slots into that bottom member, so the radiator can be sort of shimmied either way for fitting, but it's all quite close. It's the best way of doing it as far as I can tell. Then we're going to work out how high to put these risers, and I might put some right angle there along the front and just pad it out. But it's getting there. So I think if I weld on a couple of these, it just means the thing I don't like, I probably should have mounted the radiator further forward to kick the bottom out. But I don't think, like it's all clearing. It's close, but it's clearing. But I think ultimately a certain distance from the radiator is a good idea for a fan, because then it'll work a bit better. The thing is, it means welding this out of square, so you know there's that much movement in it, because this is 30 and that's 25. But if I weld it forward, then it's going to give me a nice thing under there, which I can then attach a brace to, just to hold that. But even there with the hose there, it's not going anywhere. So I figured, look, I'm just going to cut another one of these, same length, and do it that way, because I can't see any other way where. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not perfect, but I don't think it needs to be perfect. You know what I mean? Like it's just made of junk. But it just goes against me a bit. But this thing was so far out. The base unit was so far out. It was twisted and warped and all sorts of things. But I can't think of a better way. And I don't really think it matters, to be honest about it. I'm going to get it sort of up in there. I'm just going to try and tack it, and we'll see where that goes. And then once I've got it all tacked and sort of looking good, then I'll take the engine off and finish up. That's tacked. That's not going anywhere. Oh. Handy dandy. Yeah, that's there to stay. The solenoid's going to be on this side. I've got a piece of, what do you call it, thingo. In fact, that can just probably bolt in there. Yeah, I think I might just bolt that there. Right, so we know we've got to cut that off and just have it as a bolt-on arrangement. Been messing around with the exhaust, cleared the starter pinion and started sort of tacking up and welding a bit of the pipe that has to go around there. Really crummy welds, but I'm not here for that. Look, it's crap. It's off a Civic. I'm just going to put that thing. I'll cut the tailpipe off and just do an angled piece down with a sort of a cut there. Stick that there, and it'll keep it reasonably narrow. I might actually cut this up here. Whatever the case, I want to narrow it down. It just means it's a bit wide in that area, but I had no other way of doing it. That's all off the Civic engine pipe. Or sorry, not engine pipe, muffler pipe. And that's just a bit of stuff I had here. And it's not very well done, but I think for this purpose it's going to be fine. So it's starting to get there. The only thing I haven't figured out yet is where I'm going to put the dashboard. Well, it's not done yet, but it's getting there. There's a little tip. It's going to be a little exhaust tip down there. Welding shocking. I don't care. I'll grind them back and make it look a bit prettier. But it's getting there. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be quite wonderful. And I love that it's got its fan. You have to have an old fan with an old engine. Right, so we've got this little dash. There's a couple of problems. There's a few problems with it. Didn't cut it very round. And I thought I would try and book match, so to speak, even though it's a different piece of timber. Book matching is when you cut it down the center and open it up like that, so the grains are all symmetrical. That bombed with, became very dark as opposed to that, but it doesn't matter. We've also got the laminating, which didn't stick too well on that. That's iron-on pine stuff. I wouldn't have used pine if I'd known we had anything else. But the big thing is that when I painted it, I picked it up like that to look at it and then went to put it down and tipped it over. And so there's some gathered bits in it. So what we're going to have to do is just kind of flow coat it, because we've got, where is it? There's a bit there. I'm just going to level off any of the imperfections where I dropped it. And look, this is just messing around, basically. And then I'm going to re-clear it, yeah. So flow coating is when you clear it, let it go off, and then you re-clear it again after rubbing it back to get a nice shiny finish. Which, look, I'm a bit nonchalant about it, really. It doesn't matter. I just want to get this video out. This is just Garden Variety Auto Clear. It's a Concept Paints product. Hang on, I'm going to turn that air down a bit. This gun was a bit blocked up. Cleo! I'm just going to throw it on nice and thick. That dog drives me nuts. Is that working properly? Yeah, it seems to be. This is acrylic, so it dries just out of the gun. So I'm shooting, it's a hot day today, so I'm sort of shooting it quite close, and also there's bikes and all sorts of things around. But it doesn't matter, because by the time it reaches them, it'll be dry. It just turns into dust. So give it a nice generous coat. And this has to get on nice and thick. And let that go off. What we're going to do now, I've got it how I want it to look. That looks terribly untidy, but I terribly don't care. We need a bit of AC sheet to go over the muffler to act as a heat dissipation. Because our dash, I'm going to leave it there too long, this will burn because it's just been done. It'll sit like that. Probably just branded it, but anyway. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to have to take that whole tail section off. I'm just going to weld the bolts in from behind so they're captive. So you can literally just undo that flange, take those nuts off, and that whole assembly will just slide off. I'll also have it so there's a wing nut on the top of each top bit of these, I guess, just to hold that dash on. But all that has to be welded properly. I've done a very, very poor job, then realised that the welder turned down too much where I've got it up. For the tube, it's really, really penetrated well, but around some of these it hasn't. So I'm going to have to grind them off and redo them. But The only thing I'll need is just a piece of AC sheet, as I said before, which will just slide under there. And that'll act as a pretty good shelf as well. We don't want to have anything falling into the flywheel. The rotational stuff at the back's fairly well covered. Pardon me, and I've also made a small tailpipe which points down, which has to be welded properly as well. So we've got to pretty it up. Once I've taken the tail section off, I've got this other piece here which I'm going to bolt along the front, and I need the little caps to go there too. But you know what? It's going to look pretty okay. This is when you know you're being stupid, when you give a muffler a paint job. I'll leave that bit for, I've got some, what do you call it? Hammer tone. The welding looks terrible. But I ran out of time because I've been doing, I wanted to bring some content out, and I've been doing all the school reports. And they are really busy, and that takes the priority over everything. It's my job. So you have to do a good job at that too. So this had to take the back seat, and I sort of rushed to get a bit of content out. Which meant I was well, it's better. Oh, it's a red bag. Look at this, look at this, look at this. These are really dangerous. They're the most venomous spider in Australia. I can't let that live. I always let spiders live. But not that one. I'm sorry if anyone loves them, but no, they're too dangerous. Well, I'm sorry if you didn't like seeing that, but that thing was just a baby. And you've got to think, where is its mum? Yeah, I never kill spiders. I killed two. One's a redback and the other's a whitetail. They're the only two. I let all the others go or put them outside. But I'm not having those things really. If I can avoid it, I will. Now the task is going to be taking this off the stand. I would have had this started this weekend. That's why I put that manifold on. I didn't use the gasket. I just used some Celastic to get the thing running. And then I changed my mind. I had all this stuff that had to be plated for the 1600. And as I said before, it doesn't matter the quantity. It's always similar price. So I might take a chance and paint the engine just the way it is. If it turns out to be an absolute dog, it doesn't matter. It's garage art. Priming is upon us. We've got to etch all these lovely engine parts. It will protect them. I've wiped them off with Prepsol to get the water-based solution off. There's a rock cover there, so I'm hanging up there. And the stand, I'll have to move that rather lovely car out the way before I do it. But it's all looking fairly good. I'm pretty happy with it all. I've got kind of an army green going on here. I don't mind though, I think it was pretty good. This is just cured enamel. I probably could reduce it more, but I don't want to. I want to put it on quite thick. Just to cover some of the pitting. Your first coat should always be quite thin. But I've actually broken that mould. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. So I'm going to let that go off, and I'll give it a second coat. I'll give you a closer look, just a moment. The better of the tinware I've kept for the 1600, it's going to be an MG red. That's quite a dark green, it's almost a military green. That's the one we made up out of black and that other really sickly green. But I tell you what, I don't mind that one little bit. I reckon it looks bloody good. Hopefully you do too. Right, so I've mixed those two greens under there together and I've come up with that, which I reckon looks damn good. Let me take this outside and show it to you. For some idea, it's very army, like that sort of stuff. Can you see that? I think it looks damn good. So actually I've done a bad thing. I've mixed quick dry enamel with air dry. The black was air dry and that stuff I think was quick dry. There's the stand and the other bit there. That'll give you some idea about what it's going to look like. I've left the cap hydroblasted bare with a bit of clear on it, just rattle can clear. What I've got to do with this is I've got to, pardon me, I've got to paint it, but I don't want to do, look at that. I reckon if I scrub that back it's going to leak. So I'm wondering whether to take it off and put the 1600 sub there and then repair that one. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is clean the block up beautifully, paint it, but not that, I'll just paint over that grease, which will be funny. Because I always get praised on how thorough and all this sort of stuff I am, but that would be really dodgy. But anyway, that's the green it's going to be. The other bits and pieces I've got etched. This is all the better stuff. So it's the best of the covers I've got, and I've masked it off nicely, and the best of the fan, the best, you know what I mean, the breather's noise. That's the bottom of the filler cap. I tried to get the other one off, but I couldn't get it. So I've got these edged. This sump, I've welded up all the holes. I've taken that out. There was this, can you see that? It was brazed on the outside. Now I can't MIG to brazing. I can cut a big patch out there. You can see where it was. I'm going to weld in a little disc, and this will be alright, I reckon, because I'm going to take stuff out of it. I've welded up a lot of the really big pits. Oh crap, I've welded up the really big ones, and I'll just use JB Weld to fill in all those little tiny pits, and then I'll paint it. There's another big one there I missed, but it hasn't got a hole in it. I don't think. You got to look from every angle, otherwise they're not immediately obvious. But I think that's going to be right. So what I'll do, I'll fill it with water, let it sit on the bench in the kitchen or with some newspaper underneath, see if it seeps at all. If it doesn't, and we're good, we'll fill it all in with JB Weld, sand it back. It doesn't have to look great because it's underneath, and we'll paint it. But I'm sort of wondering whether to replace the 1500 something with this, then fix the 1500s one up with the 1600. I don't know. Give me some advice. That stuff all looks great. That's the later cover for the 1600. Some of this stuff I'll repeat in those videos, but anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Our stand has got gold hammer tone, or it's supposed to be bronze. Very poor welding. A lot of this, I've got to say, was because of school reports. I was only able to do this sort of thing at 9. I couldn't really see what I was doing. Having said that, we've got some pretty good penetration, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Well, that gives you some idea about what my latest stupid idea looks like. That's radiator's not level, but that doesn't matter, it'll do. I've got the starter solenoid there, and I've got the fuel pump over there. That's not wired up, it's just sitting there for good looks and measure. Exhaust system's done. That just sort of hangs off the back of the engine. So in the next chapter what we'll do is we'll wire that thing up and this thing and that thing over there, put the engine on, and we're going to put that little 1500 on. It will look nice and schmick, but if it blows smoke and knocks its head off, it really doesn't matter. It was a $50 engine and we just wanted to see what it's like. This is really for the 1600. We'll get that going, rebuild it properly, and that'll take precedence until we get some sort of car for it, which I haven't planned yet. But yeah, that's it. So I haven't really, gone to any special lengths with welds and all this sort of stuff. It is cobbled together literally out of junk, and you can see yourself whether you think it's rubbish or not. It's okay. I'm reasonably pleased with it. I wasn't shooting for anything higher than that. That's pretty much what I wanted. So anyway, look, thanks very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves. Oh, I've got to get another one of these. I thought I'd splurge and buy some bolts, and they don't fit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy Classic, and I'll see you soon. What do you reckon? Shit. Shit.